Hey guys, welcome back. So as you can see, the oil pan is off of this. We got this all cleaned up as you saw in the other video about this. So now we have the new oil pan over here. Bring it a little closer. So we're going to do a weld-in dipstick with this. So I want to go ahead and show you a couple little steps that I take to make sure that this is nice and clean. And you want to make sure you get the right orientation on this. So let me grab the camera for you and I'll show you what I do here. All right, so this is something that I do myself, not something that you need to do. However, I have done these oil pans in the past where you weld your dipstick adapter in here, and that is a Scott Morris piece that he sells. And getting all of this paint off of here makes a mess. So just put something down in here to line this, and doing so will let you keep as much dirt out of the oil pan that saves you time cleaning. So a couple paper towels and a little bit of masking tape just saves you a little bit of time here. So I have a Rollo disc here, and that disc is going to go on this right angle Milwaukee that I have here, and it works really well. But you want to clean the inside all the way around and the outside all the way around so that you can get a nice clean fit on there so that you can weld all the way around there. So we're going to take the Rollo lock disc on the Milwaukee here and just clean this up. So you grab your adapter here and you can see that you have enough all the way around it that you can get a nice good clean weld. So that's what you really want to see. So now we need to take care of this little tab here that needs to go so that we can get this all cleaned up. So make sure that everything's nice and clean. You got your surfaces clean. We'll get this tab taken off of here. So we're going to come back here with these vice grips. I grabbed a pair of channel locks here. The channel locks usually work, but sometimes the vice grips are a little bit better. So we're going to try these channel locks here first. And just grab a hold of that little tab and just keep working it back and forth until it breaks off. So there it is, gone. So you have a little bit of a burr there. You might have to clean up if you have an issue with getting the adapter fit in there. So if that becomes a problem, using a carbide. But just fit it in here, and if it fits, then you're great, ready to weld in, but we might have to clean that up a little bit. So I got a file here. It's going to be the easiest thing to use for me right now. I don't have a carbide here. So we're just going to file this nice and smooth. Okay, so you can see we got that burr taken off there with the file. So we're going to go ahead and fit this again. And as you can see, it fits in there nice and it goes round all the way so that it can be put in the way it's supposed to be. So we've got the outside cleaned up. Now we need to do the inside here. We're going to get the inside cleaned up and we'll go ahead and show you what this is going to look like. So you can see all the dirt that's in here. This is why I had said to make sure you line the inside of this. This is just so much less that you have to clean. So that's why I had suggested doing this, because now you don't have to clean any of this metal out. But now we got to work on getting that inside cleaned up a little bit more. And the outside here is pretty good, nice and smooth. The adapter fits in here nice and well. So we're going to go ahead and make sure this is all nice and clean, and that way we can get everything welded in, inside and out. So I'm going to grab our dipstick here, and we're going to go ahead and get this opened up. This is an OEM Ford dipstick. Got it from Diesel O-Rings, and the packaging is terrible, so we have pulled it out of the plastic, pulled it out of the paper. So once you get it all cleaned out here, you can see that when you pull this out of here that it is not painted. So definitely going to have to paint it. It is a nice quality piece, as you can see here, and if you grab the adapter you'll see that it goes right on there without an issue, but there is an O-ring that goes right here. So that does not come with this dipstick. so you will have to buy that O-ring separately. So what I like to do is make sure that this goes in clean, make sure that you have no issues, and that O-ring will definitely seal this up for you and make it a nice tight fit. So make sure that when you buy a new dipstick, you get the O-ring with it. So that's very, very important because that is a replaceable piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this dipstick and the pan and the adapter, and we're going to go ahead and put it on the engine so that we can get the orientation right. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and take the pan and lay it on the engine. Now there's no RTV or nothing on here. We're just doing this for a mock-up purpose. And if you want to put a bolt in it, you can. So let's show you what we got going on here. So as you can see, the pan is just kind of sitting on there. And we're going to go ahead and spin this thing around for you. So the Super Duty dipstick attaches to the valve cover. So what we need to do is we take this nut off down here, and that way we can get this aligned up so that we can get that adapter tacked in. So as you can see, it slides on the stud here, and it will go inside the oil pan. So once we get this all lined up, we can go ahead and weld that adapter in. So take your adapter, and you put it on your dipstick here, and you'll just slide it over the stud and into the oil pan. So you want to tighten this nut up on the stud because that's going to be your final placement of this dipstick. So make sure that that's all nice and snug. Doesn't need to be tightened, too much, but it needs to be so it's not going to move. So now that you've got that all snugged up, you can kind of take a look at your adapter and see where it needs to be. So at this point, you can either mark it or weld it. So what we're going to do here is, this needs to be lined up. If this is not in line, then it's going to cause you problems. It could cause you a leak later. You're going to have to finagle with this dipstick tube. It needs to be massaged to fit, and we don't want any of that. So this is what needs to be done to make sure that this welded adapter is exactly where it needs to be, because there is no alignment point on this adapter. It has to be just so. So if you're using the OBS dipstick, you would have to bolt it and do it differently. So since we're using the Super Duty dipstick, we're going to do it this way, mount it to the valve cover, and then place it in the adapter and place the adapter in the oil pan. So now that we got this all lined up here, we're going to go ahead and grab our negative lead for the welder, because I'm just going to tack it in place right here. Don't want to mark it. I want it to be just right. So make sure you get a nice good ground on there. Make sure that that's not going to pull on your adapter too much. That way you get a nice, good, solid ground for your lead. Now I'm MIGging this, so we're going to go ahead and put a couple tacks on here to make sure that it stays. So take your time with this. So as you can see, 4 good tacks on there, and that should be good enough to hold that. If that tack doesn't hold, then I don't think you should probably be welding this. So we're going to go ahead and get this oil pan taken off and just do short spurts around here to make sure that it's welded good and solid. And then don't forget that we're going to also weld the inside to do a double seal. So make sure that when you're doing this, you don't overheat the pan and warp it. So we're going to go ahead and do this as correctly as possible, because we don't need any pan warpage. We don't need to warp anything around the pan or the adapter. You want to make sure you get good penetration without too much heat dissipation. So we're going to make sure that we do all this correctly so that it does not leak, and that's what you need the most of. Is you want to make sure that that doesn't leak. And as you can see here, it's still nice and loose in there, so that it will go in nice and easy with the O-ring put on it. So something else is this Motorcraft TA31. It does have an expiration date. So as you can see here, it says used by 7/22/24. So there is an expiration date on this. So you want to make sure that you use it by that date. and there's nothing on here that says about its cure times, so it is fine to use. Just make sure that you do your research on it, because you want to make sure that it's good, and you don't want to use bad RTV on an oil pan that is a pain to do. So you use it everywhere. They use it on the front cover, they use it on the rear main cover, so it's used pretty much everywhere, so it's not a bad thing to have. However, when you buy the rear main kit, it comes with this, which is International's brand of the same type of silicone. So you can use that on the oil pan as well, and the front timing cover, so you can use that wherever you want. That the TA31 is required. This is the same product, it's just International's brand. So if you do a rear main and don't want to buy the TA31, you can use the International brand that comes with the rear main seal, because this needs a caulking gun, and obviously you cut the tip off, whereas the International is just in a squeeze tube and a resealable cap. So that is also a benefit to using the International stuff. So we're going to go ahead and get this oil pan off of here. So we're going to take the nut off of the dipstick tube here and remove it from the oil pan, because it's no longer needed on here at the moment, and we have to paint this up anyway. We'll probably paint this up when we do the oil pan and everything. As you can see, it just slides right out of there, no problems with that. So go ahead and put your nut back on here so you don't lose it, and then we're going to go ahead and take these oil pan bolts out that we tightened up before to hold the oil pan in place. So let's go ahead and get these all out of here. So now that we got this oil pan off of here, you can see we got to clean this all up a little bit more. But you can see we got some good penetration there, but we still need to weld the inside completely. So we've got to make sure that we get all the way around here and make sure that that is a nice oil tight seal, because oil will get its way through a weld if it is not done completely. So we're going to clean this up the rest of the way, make sure that it's good and clean so that we can get this all welded up.
Alright guys, I never claimed to be a welder, but this isn't too bad. So this is untouched except for right here where the weld was just a little bit high. I didn't want it to stick up and grab anything, so I just smoothed that out a little bit. But otherwise, just a wire wheel to clean off all the temp markings and any paint that was burned off. Here's the inside here. I like to do both inside and outside, because it makes sure you got a double seal, so to speak, of weld. That way you got a seal here, and then it's got to get through this weld and then through the outside weld to leak. So this is a permanent fix for the adapter leaking, as long as you have the ability to weld. I did not TIG this. I used a MIG on this. I do not have the ability to TIG here. I also do not have that experience, so I'm unable to TIG things. A TIG would be a much better process for this. As for paint, I'm going to paint the outside of this. I'll probably end up using chassis saver on here just because it's durable, and hopefully it'll seal this up really well to the powder coat. I might give this a quick scuff with a Scotch-Brite pad just to make sure that we get a good bite. As for the inside, not sure what I'm going to paint this with yet. It's been a long time since I've done one of these, a couple years now, so I can't remember if I painted the inside of the last one or left it bare. It's going to have oil vapor and everything else on it, so it's not going to rust. I mean, the inside of the engine doesn't rust. None of this is painted, so this, in theory, should be fine unpainted. So I'm going to go ahead and get this put on for you and make sure that our block is nice and clean. Make sure this is nice and clean here. I'll probably hit this with a red Scotch-Brite pad also, just to give it a little bit of a bite. That way we're not trying to put it on a smooth finish. Make sure we get a good bite on there so it doesn't leak, because the only right way to do an oil pan on a 7.3 is to pull it out. If your oil pan gasket leaks, you're going to pull it back out. So don't want to do that again if I don't have to. So we'll make sure this is nice and clean. This has been sitting upside down for a couple days now, so we've gotten all the residue that's going to fall onto this mating surface out of the way. So that's a plus. So that's why you got to put the oil pan on upside down, and you have to let it cure. I do believe it's a 24-hour cure time. I don't know if it says on this bottle or not. It says let vehicle sit at least 1 hour before operating. So I like to do 24 hours. This says 1 hour. So you can do 1 hour. And then we also have the international here. So let's see, it says nothing about cure time. Not a thing. However, I like to let these set overnight just because we don't have to worry about it at that point. But that's also something else. This engine needs to be upside down for at least an hour, so none of this residual oil will run down and creep in between your RTV and your block, or your RTV and your oil pan. So this is why it's imperative that you pull these out and turn them over. So we'll go ahead and get this all cleaned up. I'm going to go over this with some brake clean and some paper towels. I'll use a bunch of paper towels to make sure it's nice and clean. Scotch-Brite this, clean this up, and we'll go ahead and get it put on. All right, I let this cool down a little bit before I started to work on this. So we're just going to scuff this up nice. Remember, after you're done scuffing this, that you want to make sure that you blow this out really, really well. Make sure there's no crud left in there. So on the front, so up here, and then back here, so this is in the rear, you have a little bit of a indent in there. It's to hold the RTV to give you a good seal. Make sure you get that indent scuffed up really, really well. Because if you just go over it real quick, you won't get down in there to give that RTV a good bite and get that inside little ledge scuffed up. A lot of guys won't take the time to do this, but I feel that this is a important part of this, because you want to make sure that you give that RTV the best possible way to stick. So you want to make sure that you scuff this up really, really well to make sure you get a good adhesion, because without adhesion, that oil has the possibility to creep through there, and that's not something that you want. So something else here, and you can see it. You see this corner is bent down a little bit. You know, since shipping companies are so delicate with their shipments, I've had that happen, and I just noticed it on this one. So I'll have to take the dead blow and give that some taps to get it back to straight. That way we don't have a problem with that sealing later on. So same thing on this back here. We'll make sure you get down in these lips, get in these corners really, really well. So that looks pretty good to me. Looks like this corner's got a little bit of a bend too, so we'll give it a tap. Doesn't take much. Like I said, I like to use a dead blow for this, because dead blow isn't gonna screw you up too bad. So just eyeballing that up really well. This side's pretty good, and that side's pretty good. So what you want to do is you want to eyeball across there and make sure that these are nice and flat. And I'll show you this surface here. So you can see this is all nice and scuffed up, which is what you want. So I'm going to take this over to the air compressor just blow it out. Make sure that this is nice and clean. And if I have to wipe it out, I'll give it a real quick wipe. So grab a couple paper towels, some brake clean, and just wipe your mating surface here. Make sure that that is good and clean, because, you know, you heard me blow it off with the air compressor, but you still get dirt. So just give this inside a real quick wipe. Make sure there's nothing hanging on there that it doesn't want to come off. So this is good here. So let's go ahead and we will look at this engine over here. Okay, so we got you focused over here on the engine. So once again, paper towel, a little bit of brake clean. You don't want to go crazy with this, because I want to minimize how much drag I get on these edges. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of crap coming off of here. So I'll go over this one time with this paper towel that's filthy. Make sure I get all the heavy stuff off of here. This is something else. So this is very difficult to do while it's in the truck, because you have a cross member in the way. So as you can see, that was filthy. Now it'll be pretty hard to get this 100% clean. Doesn't matter how many times you wipe this, you're going to find dirt. Which is why it's very, very important to do this out of the truck. Because you could wipe this thing 100 times and get dirt. But as you can see, we're getting better here. So, but you still just keep finding it. So we're getting better here. So I think I'll go over this one more time. Like I said, I want this to be as clean as possible. Like I said, you can wipe this 100 times and still get dirt. But that's just the nature of metal. As you can see, this is pretty clean. I'd be hard pressed to get it much cleaner than that. Got a little fuzzy down in there. There we go. A little fuzzy. So this is all clean. I previously wiped this all down. Now, it's physically impossible to get nothing down in this crankcase. So whenever you go to get this going, I had spoke about a screen in the high pressure oil reservoir. So that screen will catch anything that you left in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my TA31, put in a caulking gun and get it opened up. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put the gasket maker on here. Okay, TA31 inside the caulking gun here. So I had said we had a zip tie in here before. I took it out. Make sure there's nothing else in your pickup here. Because if you take this pickup off, there's a gasket, an O-ring right here. And you'll have to put that O-ring, a new O-ring in there if you take that off. We have no reason to take that off of here. So we are just going to leave that on. So we'll go ahead and we'll start getting this gasket maker put on. Now I had mentioned a rear main. The rear main has nothing to do with what I'm sealing back here. There is a metal plate on here. The rear main bolts to this metal plate. So we're going to be doing this, and you want to make good focus of your corners. So your corners where your pan starts to come up and over, and then also where your timing cover meets your block, and also where your rear cover meets your block. Now, note I said cover. That's not your rear main. There's a rear cover on the back of a 7.3. So we're going to start here. And you don't need to use a whole lot, but you want to get it right in the middle. And I have a very, very short cut on this. That way I have better control over the flow of the RTV. I don't want a real wide cut. You also want to make sure that you get enough on here. You don't want to be too stingy with this, because this literally is a job that you only want to do once. So I had mentioned about the timing cover. I like to put a good amount there where the timing cover meets the block. So I'll get this put on here, and then I'll show this to you with the camera so you can see what I did here. Don't mind if you're a little bit messy, because the factory one, the factory, the way that they did these, was just as messy. Good amounts in the corners. And good amounts in the little dips there where the oil pan comes up and over the front and rear covers. Because you saw I had to tap the oil pan back into a shape there. So you want to make sure that these do seal really well, seal around every bolt hole. So let me grab this for you. So as you can see, heavy in the corners. Like I said, there's a lot there, but it will squeeze and not cause you any issues. And then just a nice steady bead all the way around there. So we got that on there. Take your oil pan here, smash your microphone. Give it a good push and wiggle there. Make sure that you can see that gasket material oozing out. So we've got the corners really, really well. So I'm not real pleased with how this front looks. But it looks like it's sealed up okay. Like I can't even lift it off of there. That's how well this stuff seals up. So make sure all your holes are good. The back looks to be oozing out nicely. So we got our oil pan bolts here. Get them all started. Now these front ones you definitely want to start by hand because those go into the aluminum timing cover. Don't screw up those threads. That could cost you some money. So I've had this problem with other oil pans where they've spread a little bit. So you're trying to fight the oil pan and getting that threaded into the block. So I have this ratchet here. I'm going to just go easy with this. Make sure these all start. So I just snug these down. So I have these snug down. I know that these don't take a whole lot of torque. I'm not sure of the torque spec. I'm just making them snug for now until this silicone can, this RTV can get cured. So good and snug there. Like I said, there's a torque spec for those. I do believe it's about 22 foot-pounds. And that's about where we're at there. But I'll come back and I'll check them here after we shut this video down. Just wanted to show you that we had some ooze come out here. And this is ideally what you want. You want that little bit coming out. You can see a little bit there and in the corner back here. And then same over here. And then over here. It's a little bit harder to see on this side. However, you can see a little bit oozing out there. So that's perfect. If you don't feel like you got enough put on after you get your oil pan put on here, you could actually take RTV and put up in here. So get some on your finger here and smash it in there, because you've cleaned this whole surface up. So if you feel like you didn't get enough in amongst the radius here, which is easy to not put enough in, then you can come in and smear some on here just to make yourself feel better. I wouldn't be mad if you did it yourself. I may end up doing it with this engine. Once we get the rear main off, I can get in here a little bit better and look at it. If I feel like we need to put more in there, then I'll smear a little bit in there just as extra insurance. You know, before you put oil in it, before you get it dirty, you know, you can put that on there just as a little bit of extra insurance. However, that's the way to do an oil pan on a 7.3, and the only right way to do it is upside down like this, using Motorcraft TA31 or the international equivalent, which I showed you earlier. But we used a forward pan on this one, and this one is for this engine. So make sure you buy the right oil pan for your make and model engine. If you're not sure which oil pan you need, so this one you can see has the oil pickup on, let's see, this would be the passenger side. So passenger side. I made the video of the OBS and Super Duty comparisons, and all the serial number info for oil pans and everything else, the breakdowns, is in that video. So if you're not sure what you have, you need to know your serial number to know what you need for this. But we got the Weld In Dipstick in here. I'm going to clean the rest of this block up here and get this thing painted up so that it's nice and shiny when it goes back in the truck. But I want to do this so it could sit overnight. That way, whenever I come out here tomorrow, I can turn this thing over and start getting some stuff done on it, even if I forego painting it right away. But thanks for watching. I hope that you found this video informative and useful, and we'll continue to do OBS and 7.3 content along with some other Ford products. So like this is going in a 2001 truck. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate if you'd subscribe to the channel to keep this moving forward, and we'll see you on the next one.